So obviously it's a very cool description. It kind of speaks for itself. And kind of joy of like wonderment in life. But one thing that I do kind of find very interesting is like, really, what is seriously going on with, actually, let me talk about what is most shocking. The fact that if we all unify, then one day we shall overthrow the cabal. Honestly, I think that makes less sense than the fact that the cabal are still here. And like, and what? Like, it's interesting. Like, well, it's like I gotta pretend that I can convince myself that everything that I'm doing, and believing that I'm doing everything in my power to not only forgive the cabal, but to say like we need to actually not have this sort of cabal, black nobility, Illuminati sort of control system, whatever, dude. We need to not have that control system here. That seems very clear to me. Yet, to consistently and over and to progressively and ascensionally, or as in like inclinationally, acceleratingly, doing everything I can to sort of provide the freedom that we're supposed to have without all the ridiculous enslavement that the cabal wishes to have. The fact that, even if I wasn't working hard, the fact that the cabal are still is ridiculous. Like, the cabal needs to not be here. The cabal needs to not be a thing. They need to be forgiven, and they need to recognize the light within them. And I'm tired of explaining that anymore, or any further. There's no need to. Next thing. So, very fun things that happened in Britain, or happening in Britain, in terms of the inspirational, like, joy that happens with the creational manifestation of music, movies, TV shows, but mostly the directorships and the respect for that. So that's a cool thing. Obviously, I had to take, and it sounds very hilarious, but I had to take a step in that direction, the pun is ridiculous, but I had to take a step in that direction. I also have to recognize that I am a comedian, so I need to, remember and treat that profession with respect, because it's I kind of had a weird comedian sesh today, I would say, without a doubt. But yeah, comedy is important. What else? The Twitch streams, the gaming industry, I think it's having a lot of fun. I think it's very progressive. I'm not going to get into it because it's just too much. I don't need to micromanage. If I micromanage, then you guys will be enslaved, and that does not need to happen. So I'm not going to micromanage the video game industry, and I'm very happy about that. Honestly, it's very calming. The Council of Light, very calming, because without a doubt, especially when it comes to like eternal beings, like they know the light that's shining within, and they know it. There's no denying, and they respect it. So whatever endless, infinite amounts of creation that we have, and more importantly, the infinite amount of what I would just say service, because it is service. The incredible amount of service that they have, and more importantly, the importance and the fun of being in tune with the Creator, and like tuning in with the Creator on this planet is very important. But also, I think one of the more important things that happened today is that, one, I think I shouldn't be making these YouTube broadcasts anymore, and two, the amazing sort of connection that happened this morning with what I'll call just a little route, the small route on the LONDC that I was performing. With the very first Twitch stream that I watched. For the first time, I watched other people's I don't know why I'm talking about this. I'm not going to talk about the video game industry, even though it's really interesting to me. I started watching several other Twitch streams before I watched the usual Twitch stream that I usually watch. And that's kind of obvious which one I'm talking about. But more specifically, so the first one I watched, I felt really in tune, really in sync, and I felt like, oh, we're going on a little journey that progresses in a dream world, and that kept on accelerating. And I don't know if like the description I'm about to give is as true as it sounds, but I kind of wrapped him up in a slingshot, and I freaking took a stance, and I got super buff, and I freaking chucked him across the planet, and then pretty much through creation, and then I just kind of make a big scene of like staring up at the sky and just like looking across the sky as this freaking the thing that I slung at full speed turns into like a little twinkling speck. And yeah, that's kind of like the thing. And whatever, like whether I like truly admit that I still am power level 68,000, which is ultimately very true, then, I'm just admitting that I'm just ridiculously powerful, and whether the only thing that I get to recognize is whether I believe that I'm just, like, emanating light and light shedding from my eyes, or if I'm, like, actually conscious and, conscious of every action that I'm committing to, and still shining radiant light from my eyes, and that sort of thing. Or, like, either just, like, super tiny and mighty, or human-sized and, somewhat like a human, or just, like, 80 feet tall and just monstrous. So, whichever way is perceived or is perception is whatever, then that's a creational form. Dude, the freaking art forms... I almost swallowed a bug. The different art forms that exist in the dream realm and the dream seeding, I'm not going to get into details about, but dream seeding was a success. It's a wonderful success, and I have to admit it's a success. And I'm overly patient. That's what I keep saying. I'm overly patient. I try to do something with whatever, dude. I think I don't have patience for what's it called? For technology, even though I do have patience for technology. I have patience for whatever, dude. I'm not even going to say that. Alright, so here's another thing that happened. The potential from like the beings of light, meaning specifically, I don't know what to call them, but like light warriors. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So light warriors and light workers. And a particular light worker in specific, or a particular light worker, in particular, just continuously radiating joy, and just seems to be a lot of merriment, and a lot of understanding, and a lot of, the true, like, discovery for colors. But the thing is, all the sort of bliss, all that, and this is kind of like what I was adamant about, because it still doesn't matter yet, because first of all, I can't go full out into the Cabal or not here. And even if I were to go full out, it wouldn't make sense, because it is based on the freaking consciousness of the Cabal already being forgiven and all that stuff. And it's not going to be understood, because it's not going to be understood. And I could pretend that it's understood, and I'm going to pretend to, like, work at a level per se, or like emanate light from a level that says I'm able to create and manifest based upon a reality in which the Cabal is not here. And the thing is, that's kind of what I'm doing, but it's all based upon foundations of love that are just accelerating and evolving in creation anyway. But the thing is, I'm not gonna, like, not know, and that's the thing. So, like, when I discover, the thing is, like, all this technology, all right, all the technology that the Cabal have, like the really advanced technology and the super surveillance, I can use that to my benefit in the most beneficial way for all of humanity. But when I discover that I'm doing wonderful, great things, and then I discover the Cabal are still here, what do you think I'm going to do? How do you think I'm going to react? How do you think I'm going to respond? Like, how do you think I'm going to emanate my light? How do you think I'm going to exist? How do you think I'm going to, like, move or blink or think or proceed to progress in life? How do you think I'm going to proceed to progress in life with the understanding that, oh, if I were to give my all out, I am actually going to be aware of the collective consciousness, and I'm going to be aware of this little consciousness that's called the Cabal, that's called the Black Nobility, and the Illuminati, and all this stuff, and the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds, all that jazz. Anyway. So good news is up to 35. Yeah, there's 15 or 20 new rays of light. So obviously, what is that? Something on my robe. Anyway, there's a lot of joy emanating from the beings of light, or just emanating from beings in general, because there's an understanding that they can take part in the ascensional consciousness of ascensional consciousness. That doesn't mean anything. They can take part in creation. You know, the 16th ray, 17th ray, 18th ray, 19th ray, 20th ray. There's like the fifth rays that allow for accelerated creation with the, with all the previous rays. 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th ray. Those are all the rays that kind of allow a sort of even greater, like, aspect and grip, sort of, for lack of a better word, a greater hold on creation, and then a more, like, stern, or not stern, but more, like, abrupt and more creative and more fascinating level of creation, which is great. And then 28, 29, 30th rays, those are the rays of creation that allow more emanation and more light and more creative abilities, obviously, and more creative power. The differences that happen between let's just talk about those high vibrations so I can be put at ease. The differences that happens between when you utilize these rays is these rays are kind of the opportunity to allow sort of emanations that kind of is the responsibility of someone who emanates these rays of light. And the thing is, what's important to recognize is something that I actually recognize, is like, I don't necessarily have to be the whole fulcrum foundation of like the 13th ray, because that wouldn't necessarily make sense, but it also wouldn't necessarily not make sense. At the same time, it doesn't work backwards, but at the same time, it's not, in a box. So, like, the light that I emanate can also emanate and be taken, or like other beings of light can take part in my light creation, and vice versa. All the beings of like the 12th, 11th, 10th ray, they can also take part in the light vibration, and that's an important thing. I feel like my headache is disappearing. That's so wonderful. Major joy, dude. Major joy is the overall foundation of life, and that's the truth that is being reported to me. Like, that's the message that I received. So that's a good message that I received. I receive messages all the time. Messages are being being delivered from all realms, from all points and all times, and it's my duty in a way to sort of pass on the message. So I received some heavenly messages today, and I passed them on, like I'm supposed to. And, it was a success, But, I'm not gonna lie, there's always gonna be those that try to subvert the truth, or those that try to stop the message from getting to who the message is supposed to reach. And that's nothing new, That's to be expected. But if anything, it doesn't deny the courage that's there by the messengers, or those who want to receive the message, or who are waiting to receive the message. Believe it or not, there's still a waiting sort of thing. There is such thing as a waiting room. I'm not sure how seriously the marketing team would take that, but whatever. I'm just assuming that the marketing team, because once again, I'm also consolidating the truth of, like, pretty much I'm not talking about the marketing team anymore, because I don't need myself to be in some cyclical, repetitive cycle to rely on my marketing team. And the marketing team doesn't need to be in some cyclical cycle of regulating to me all the things that they're able to do in wonderful, positive success. Media is great. I'm not going to get into details about it because I refuse to micromanage it. But all the joys that's happening in terms of the micromanaging is a huge success. So top. In terms of like, okay, let's just talk about the top. Like, let's say I just know for a fact it's very lonely at the top, and I said that. Like, I was wondering. I was really, really, really wondering, and I'm still kind of wondering in the back of my mind. I try to keep it in my subconscious or in my unconscious so I don't think about it. But I'm wondering, like, why have people been running away from me? Like, why are people still living in fear? And I'm not saying that, like, my whole focus is, like, why are people running away? Like, why are people living in fear? And, like, my whole focus is why are the people in fear? It's just that I know... it was something that I was wondering, I was questioning that. And it's at the same thing, it doesn't really matter to me because I'm not really thinking too much about other people or other bodies or anybody else at all. But the truth is, for one, I really don't like the cabal, and for two, it was just an observational thing. Like, like, it seems like everyone's running away, but I just felt like saying that for some reason. Who knows if it's true or not, but I really don't want people to run away, and I find that annoying. I find it annoying when people run away, and the fact that people continually try to run away is even more annoying. But there's a reason for everything, so I gotta recognize that. I'm not saying that I'm paying attention to others, because I'm not. Hold on one second. All I know is that there's a lot of fun and there's a lot of goodness, and that, the cabal need to be triumphed over. They need to be conquered. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the only way to do things, but, I'm just saying that I'm not running out of ideas. I'm not running out of options, but, like, in the seriousness, like, I cannot have the cabal still be here, because it's absolutely ridiculous. And, like, me personally, like, okay, like, I've been really, really, like, fighting the cabal, like, just knowing the fact that, okay, there's an enemy, like, the cabal are actually the enemy, sort of thing. And, I wake up to that truth, and, I think, and then I just get, and then it's like, well, I just don't want to say anything, What more is there to say? That's kind of how I feel. Like, really, like, what more is there to say? Anyway. So I was gonna say something. Something's really joyous, or something on the tip of my tongue has appeared. So Anthony, from Agartha, I believe that's his name. Very, very amazing, very cool shout out to Anthony from Agartha. I believe that's his name. I'm gonna check it out again. But there's definitely a connection to the inner earth, and obviously they have a lot of love and they want to meet us. And obviously, I've literally been saying for every day, pretty much for the past 3 years, every single day, that we need to be unified and that they're welcome to come to the surface. And I'm probably going to be continuously saying that every single day. And honestly, at this point, 25 years old, 25 and a few months, what is it, ninth month, so 9, 8, 7, 7 months, so 25 years and 7 months, pretty much every single day of my life, I've been saying, Agartha, come to the surface. Inner Earth beings, Inner Earth brethren, come to the surface. Just freaking come to the surface. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't. So, I've been really adamant about that. But I understand the importance of, like, everything happening at divine timing and, whatever. Things will happen like that. That's fine. I'm not impatient. And obviously I was reading a little bit. But they seem patient. They seem to be waiting. And, I'm also involved in waiting, and I don't mind waiting. So, yeah, I'm also involved in waiting. So that seems to be a thing. And then whatever others translate, they can translate. So here's the thing that also is true. Or perceptions. Perceptions seem to be very true, and people seem to hold perceptions. Other people's perceptions, for example, and I'm just going to put this out there, of the websites I created, of the Immortal Store, of my architects and of my partners, and of the whole portrayal and understanding of how the website could be written. There's a perception that people have of the company, for example. There's a perception that people have of the business. And the thing is, their perception is not fully the greatness that is really instilled for them. And the thing is, there's going to be and I'm not saying that, like, people are not going to receive the fullness of what they deserve, but people aren't going to really receive the fullness of what they deserve from their perspective or their perception of what the actual, for example, what the actual dream is. Like, if someone has a dream, someone is dreaming, like they're sleeping and they're having a dream. And that dream was, for example, hypothetically speaking, because I'm not going to go into dream seeding at all. I feel like that's something that I shouldn't even do for a while. But when people go into the mindset of, like, dreaming, like, imagine, hypothetically speaking, that someone planted that dream there. Do you think that everything that happens to them inside of that dream, do you think that they recognize that person recognized the most amount of fun and the most amount of joy that they could possibly receive in that dream? No, they're not. Because that's not the dream. That's not the purpose of the dream at all. Goodness gracious. I need to take deep breaths and calm down. And that's not necessarily the purpose of the one who put the dream there for someone to experience in the first place. That's not the purpose at all. It's not the purpose at all. It's very unfortunate, actually. So, the thing is, that's kind of the situation that's happening, like, just layman's. Let's say, like, and this is actually a topic I don't want to talk about. But let's say that colors are a real thing, Let's say that dreams are color coordinated. And, for example, let's talk about the colors that are actually color coordinated. Yellow, orange, red, teal, just those colors. So those are the colors that have color-coordinated dreams associated with them. Most people have their own understandings of what those colors mean in association of creation and in association of life forms and lifestyles. I'm saying that people can keep those perceptions, but I am saying that that is not the perception that I have of the reality, and it was never the perception I have for that reality that they are to experience or that they are to intend. So do you think let me just explain this now. Do you think I'm going to take the time to explain what I meant in the first place when I created that initial creative idea? And at that time, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm really excited to meet the Agarthans. That's just one of my major goals, and I don't think I can lose sight of that. Anyway, I'm going to read this really quickly. Patience. All right, that seems to be the main. That seems to be the main thing. And the thing is, what's hilarious is I do most of my work through the Earth's core. I do all of my work for the past few months through the Earth's core, because I've just been like that for like what seems like multiple eternities. But anyway, I'm very peaceful. You know, I'm very respectful. I'm very patient. Anyway, what seems interesting is there's a lot of things that I already know. I'm trying to be patient, dude. It's so irritating, though. It's so irritating. So a lot of the things that a lot of others don't know on the surface of the world is, you know, the history of Lemuria, the history of Atlantis, the truth of the city of Shambhala, and the truth of like the beautiful nature and just the massive mile-high trees. And I don't know if they're mile-high. I just know they're freaking huge, and that they're thousands and thousands of years old. And they just never cut down their trees. And why should they? You know, why should I? Anyway, I'm not gonna get into that because that's a whole nother thing. I still do want the farms. Obviously, I don't even know how long it's been. It's probably been 24 hours, but whatever. I don't really know. I don't really care. But that's a pretty cool power. It's a pretty cool dream. Just like emanating and then waking up the next day and then doing that over and over. Trust me, I don't need that sort of mindset, and I've been trying to avoid that as much as possible. Which is why I think I've received a lot of help in that spectrum. So I don't know if it got better or worse, to be honest. But I'm going to pretend it got better. Yeah, so I already know a lot about Shambhala, and I already know a lot about Telos. And I think I also need to learn about it from them. And the thing is, it can't be rushed. And I know why it can't be rushed. Like, if anything, I'm the living example of why it can't be rushed. Like, especially with the sort of relationships that happen today, like, the relationships are just skipping, you know? There's a lot of skipping that goes on. And there's a lot of experience that could be had and experience that, you know, I don't necessarily experience. And that's kind of important, you know. I'm supposed to have that experience with, for example, like, if I'm just more in tune with Agartha and the whole inner earth than I am in tune with the surface world, then there's going to be a sort of misplacement in unity consciousness in terms of how I unite myself with Agartha and how I unite myself with the surface world and how they unite together. It's going to be completely different because I'm going to be doing many different things, such as like, oh, I should assist the Agarthans in teaching them, and, you know, I'm on this level, you know, and then I'm going to be thinking completely different things and causing perhaps many different levels of weirdness due to the fact that, you know, I'm more eager in educating them about, or in my eyes, which is probably not true, but I'm more eager in educating the surface planet about Agartha and Lemuria and Shambhala and Atlantis than the inner Earth beings are. And I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true that I want to unify the planet more than anything else in creation. there's really nothing to compare it to, because for some reason, like I continuously say and repetitively say that I've been trying to do this for 3 years, to unify the whole planet, and to think, like I would think that I'd be lying to myself if the planet wasn't unified. So I do sort of take those steps to sometimes believe that, okay, there are still countries with borders and stuff, perhaps, and we're not a unified planet yet. So therefore, whatever type of fantasy world I was living in, and whatever type of fantasy work and action that I was committed to in terms of trying to create a unified planet, is not necessarily anchored into reality yet, because there is just no grasp of that vibration. There's just no grasp of that vibration or something. There's just no grasp of that reality. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, dude. I really don't. I'm not. I'm not sure. Like, I know, I've told people about Agartha. I know that I've told military members about Agartha. I know that I've informed and inspired people about the Agartha, and when I talked to them about it, just thinking about some conversations I had in 2016, 2017, with some of my shipmates at the time, I was thinking, these guys really want to know. They're really curious about Agartha, and they want to do everything they can to discover and have this relationship, and really learn about Agartha, and be really inspired, and as inspired as I am. That's one of the reasons why I joined the military, because of Admiral Richard E. Byrd. I wanted to be an admiral, just fly there myself, and kind of just live in joy with them. Kind of like express, like, this is my journey that I progressed myself upon. I want to humbly greet you guys, and I've been on this path, and I wanted to create my own whatever. I want to create my own fleet to peacefully meet with you guys, just to say that, like, my own leadership has got me to this point where I can lead. But at the time when I joined, I was willing to take however long it took to become an admiral, to go to Agartha and meet Agartha. Perhaps, it wasn't meant to be that I would take however long it takes to become an admiral, years and years and years and years, and then spend all that time to build a fleet, and then sail to the North Pole, then go through the ocean and sail to Shambhala and all that stuff, or sail through the rivers and go to the different river cities along the way, or just go to the Agartha network, all that stuff. Network, perhaps, is another thing that's new and upgraded. We should make our own network, which I think is a really cool thing. So, there's an Agartha network. There's something called the Agartha network, and there's a bunch of cities connected to that. I'm not going to name the cities, but Telos is one of them. So perhaps we can do a similar thing. And I'm not going to get into any more detail than that. I'm not going to really talk anymore. I'm actually very, very pleased. I gotta say, I'm very, very pleased, and actually, to be honest, I'm very inspired today. I was very pleased and very inspired that Anthony from Agartha, kind of connected with, or like Anthony somehow got to me, and I'm glad I got that message. That means a lot to me, and it provides more courage and ferocity in me than could possibly be understood. But once again, I don't mean to be so ferocious that I instill fear, but at the same time, I can comfortably go all out, and what would be perceived probably by all of creation, as literal insanity. But at the same time, I feel more courageous, because I feel like even subconsciously, I've developed the ability to be courageous in this field of action, in this field of leadership, and on this frontier, this new frontier sort of thing. And I'm really inspired because the thing is, it's only been about 24 hours or so, and I'm really, really excited to be in tune I'm really excited to be in tune with the message alone. And I'm really excited, and, I get to affirm, that path that I made, which is, it's weird that I'm saying it this way, because I feel like I'm saying it over and over. But it, like, I can truly affirm that, my greatness is supposed to be emanating in the way that it is. It's weird, because, like, when I spread out this is going to be some weird analogy that I feel like saying, but when I reach out, like when I try and extend my hands out, or like when I spread my fingers apart, it doesn't necessarily reach as far as I want it to. Like, I feel like when for example, the action of putting my hand into a fist and then putting my hand into the open finger splay, like splayed fingers, I feel like that action would actually cause my hand to explode. Like the bones to go in every which direction, and the skin to fly off, and the muscles to go in every which direction, and it would cause it to explode. Because that's kind of like the act of reaching that I've engaged in subconsciously, at least, it seems like. And it just seems like, the thing is, like, whatever, do, like, all that nonsense that happens on the surface of the world, it seems like I just have more courage now, more than ever. And the thing is, it's not that I want to be courageous, it's that I know I'm right. So, and also the other thing is, like, I've been, I don't know when I learned about Agartha. I definitely knew about Agartha in 2016. But, like, I seem to, like, believe in fearlessness, when I was younger, or, like, when I was in my 20s, 2014, 2013, 2012. 2012 was 18. Yeah, when I was 20. 2014, I was 20. So yeah, in my 20s, I was super inspired to be fearless. And then, when I was in 2015, when I was 21, I was going through life, just kind of emanating, trying to express how much love and creativity meant to me, and how much people sort of meant to me, because people kind of meant a lot to me, because I wanted people to feel like what I really felt, like how I really want to express my joy and love for all of creation, and just I really want to connect and really inspire people and all that stuff. I want to be a good leader. And then 2016, 2017, I really put that into practice as a leader, that I was just leading forward without looking behind, sort of thing. Just marching forward in absolute fearlessness. And then 2018, I continued to just march forward with the courage and foundation that I had made. And then, 2019, I'm just awakening to the fact that, all the things that I believed in so strongly in 2016 as a leader, it's weird, but I feel like I have to talk like this. All the things that, I did in 2016 here in 2019, I know they're positive things, and I'm, seeing the positive results that are happening in my life. And the thing is like, I know to not be, I know to give my all every single day, but I don't know why. The thing is, like, the 13th Ray, it's like a huge success, which is an understatement. But the thing is, like, I don't know why I'm still not satisfied. The thing is, like, if I were to be true to myself, then I would know that I would know that if Project Hypercane was a real thing, that it would exist. But, like, I'm kind of saying that Project Hypercane doesn't exist. The thing is, like, one thing that I know for certain is Project Hypercane is definitely on my index finger. It's definitely on my right index finger. It's definitely on my left index finger. Like, without a doubt. Like, I feel like I know it that well. But the thing is, like, if... I'm not saying that... Okay, you know what? I'm just going to reread this really quickly. Crystalline structures. Whose energy is directed towards your platform and your cells. We see in different ways the consequences of it are taking shape. Greater individual responsibility for emotions and more. Yeah, I seem to be aware of that, dude. I seem to be aware of that. Think about it, like, I don't get upset, I don't get angry. I mean, think about it, like, if anything, I would feel the most expressive feelings of joy and stuff like that. I really don't want to talk anymore. This broadcast has already gone on too long, in my opinion. But the thing is, what type of emotion, of vigor do I feel? You know, what type of emotion of aggressiveness do I feel in terms of being successful? And it's not like I'm denying the emotion of, like, feeling like, oh, I'm super celebratory of every single human being on the surface of the planet because all the hard work that I've been doing for me, myself, and I, and the surface of the planet, in terms of unity, as an ambassador or whatever the freak I thought I was, think I am, or want to be, that freaking energy tenacity is not even a freaking habit. It's not even only ingrained in my consciousness. It just seems to be a way of life that I cannot ignore anymore. Like, it's like skin, or it's like fingernails, keratin. It grows and it's a part of you. You know, it's like, whatever, dude. I'm so tired, dude. I really don't want to talk anymore. I feel like there's nothing to say. Anyway, Council of Light did some very amazing things today. The Council of Radiant Light, excuse me. You know, I believe in... I know there's... It's kind of rude today. I was kind of rude to Britain in terms of, like, my perception of... I just called them winged beings. Which is kind of rude. But at the same time, I don't apologize. But yeah. Like, the winged beings... Or just, like, I call them winged beings. But anyway, the winged beings is, like, I kind of was, in a way, putting them on the spot, but at the same time, that's not what I was doing. Like, Britain, when I was speaking to Britain today, and it's a weird thing to say, speaking to Britain, but when I was speaking to Britain today, I was really encapsulating the greatness of, like, the sort of entertainment, entrainment mindset that's sort of in the mentality that exists anyway. And the thing is, you can't really go beyond that without, like, agreeing that, you know, this is the level of consciousness that I'm working with, sort of thing, you know? And so there's ultimately, I'm not gonna lie, there was multiple levels of consciousness that could be perceived, but in general, there's probably, like, maybe one or two major forms of consciousness that could be perceived, and they're obviously positive, or three, actually. You know, the third one being, like, the best positive possible reality, and I definitely was in tune with that, you know, several times, or perhaps even the whole time. It's weird, like, it should hit me, you know, the Council of Radiant Light, it should hit me really hard, like, about the amazingness of what they're talking about, The shift from outer authority to inner authority is everything. That's the second line. Second paragraph, first line. And that seems to be very true, but at the same time, I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. I'm so tired, dude. And, I really shouldn't be sleeping, because I feel like I should stay awake. But I don't feel the joy like I should. I really don't. I should be feeling more joy. And at times I do. But I feel like perhaps I am just too serious and too patient. And I'm not. And perhaps I'm holding it in too long or something like that. That's what I learned from... that's what I learned today, this morning, at least. It's just way too... I'm just holding things in, I think. And I think that's true because I'm not really being as forthright in terms of the fun that could be portrayed in terms of the kinesiologicalistical reality and perception and fun and play, and the thing is, I completely ignored it, which is kind of rude, but at the same time, that's kind of how I feel about it, because, with all due respect, I'm kind of why am I here? What do you even want with me? And I've just been so relentless in terms of, who I am. It's I gotta be someone, And the thing is, I want to be me. And I just realized how relentlessly unforgiving I am, For example, the thing is, I can fit things into boxes, but I don't want to fit people into boxes, But I will be that relentless, The thing is, sports have their own design, And I wanted new sports yesterday. I wanted new sports just so that I could exist without... getting overly irritated. Dude, all I know is that my heart seems to be... from the bottom of my heart, there seems to be a lot of energy. There seems to be a lot of magic. Or a lot of power. Ow! And my freaking right side of my brain, too. Which seems to have some, migraine pulses that are lasting for, 7 nanoseconds at a time. Anyway. I'm not saying that, I'm disregarding all the things that I learned. All the professions that I mentioned yesterday that I'm a part of. And it's a really exciting thing, and I should really take it seriously. And, I guess I do. But at the same time, it's not that I want to be better. It's just that I just don't have patience to be not good. I don't have the patience to be mediocre. I don't have the patience to be I don't anymore. Especially even if there wasn't, which is what I'm kind of realizing, even if there wasn't a message, that was delivered to the surface world from Agartha, even if there wasn't anything like that, I would still feel that I would need to go above and beyond. But the thing is, how I honestly feel, I shouldn't have to say anything. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say a thing. I don't want to talk. I don't want to even open my mouth. And the thing is, when I was going through the process of discovering that, is that something that I want to do? Is that, do I want to live the rest of my life as a mute? And, I considered that option, several days, and multiple weeks and stuff like that, throughout the year, throughout this year, and a little bit last year, I think. Is that something that I want to do? And the thing is, it's not even that I don't... See, I don't even want to talk. It's not even that I don't have respect for all those that want to partake and all the things that I do. It's just that I don't have patience to pretend to be mediocre anymore. And the thing is, the greatness that I already know is instilled within me, that is the greatness that I'm not going to repeat. And that is the greatness that I'm not going to lie to myself about. And that is the thing that could be kind of shocking, That can be very, very appalling. incredibly appalling, actually, to many, many beings, for perhaps even long periods of time, or, in terms of, like, what perception of time is. The thing is, I'm just gonna... I feel like I'm being told things I already know. And that's what irritates me even more, Like, why would I expect... Okay, I'm trying to be patient. And deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. The thing is, I get so patient that I know I'm not going to get the answer that I want. And what's even more ridiculous is that I don't get the answer that I want. Or even more ridiculous is which is even worse, is that sometimes I do get the answer that I want. And it turns out to be absolutely ridiculously boarded. Like, BOARDED. Like, boarded as in, like, it seems to be, like, the whole message, like, the messenger seemed to have been bombarded, like, by a whole bunch of stuff, and had to, like, be Paul Revere, or not Paul Revere, had to be, freaking George Washington on a horse, traveling miles and miles and miles and miles through freaking rain, storm, mountains, and trees and dirt and mud, and rain and stuff, just to deliver the freaking message. And by the time I get the message, do you think I'm going to pretend that I'm not aware of that whole reality that messenger had it? And the thing is, I don't... Deep breaths. I don't disregard the ferocity or the viciousness of good, or the genuine positive willpower that comes from the genuineness of the desire of someone who, for example, is dear to me, which is such a freaking Bhagavad Gita thing to say. They're dear to me. All those that fall under this category, those are the ones that are dear to me, and sort of thing, and that is the sort of thing, people do want to be part of my inner circle. I'm assuming that, inner circle is a real thing or whatever. But the thing is, deep breaths, deep breaths. I'd rather stay calm as much as possible, and I'd rather be honest with myself. I think it's a habit that I have to try and stay calm all the time, because I really want to express kind of how I feel, but like how I feel, or like how what I mean by how I feel, I really want to express in a way that's somewhat gripping, and it's the equivalent of like a claw that just grabs the head and just kind of shakes violently. Just like a giant hand that grabs onto the head, picks it up, kind of like that scene from, which is definitely going to be a movie, by the way, just to like ease my own mind, when Queen Mab hosted that ballroom sort of event with Maeve, I think like Maeve, or I think it was Maeve's birthday or something like that. And I think there's something called a rawhide. I think that's what it's called. But it's this big, huge creature that can grip a human head, and just like with its whole hand, sort of thing. So like, I feel like sometimes like that's kind of the viciousness that I feel, because like at a certain time, like sometimes I don't want people to go through life, sort of living, trying to educate themselves on the things of the surface world, you know? So, like, how this is kind of like how I feel sometimes. And this is not really how I feel, but this is kind of how I feel sometimes. Like, just grabbing someone's head, like the rawhide, just grabs the whole head and then picks it up off the ground and then shakes it violently, like a rag doll. And the neck breaks, and like, and then the whole body's tossed aside. So here's the thing that's interesting to me, like, and this is because I'm going to pretend that this isn't true, just to ease my own mind. But people are going to go through life educating themselves on the things of the surface world, but they're not going to be educated about the history, for example, of Atlantis and Lemuria, and they're not going to be educated about the reality of the advanced civilizations in Agartha, you know? And the thing is, why would I work so hard to educate them about that reality when they're just going to be involved in relearning about how to be involved in the things of the surface world, sort of thing, you know, that for example have absolutely nothing to do with the Agarthan reality. And what's even more ridiculous is that there's the cabal that actually is in the process of enslaving these minds. And the thing is, these minds and these hearts actually mean a lot more to me than the cabal's perception of what the minds and these hearts mean to them. And when and here's, I'm just going to pretend here. And when I pretend to discover that the cabal has more influence upon the hearts and minds of beings than I have influence upon the hearts and minds of beings, I don't experience jealousy, I don't experience anger, I don't experience frustration or envy or anything like that. I don't experience lust, I don't experience greed, I don't experience any of those negative emotions at all. That's actually not in my reality at all. Does that make sense? Let me rephrase that. There seems to be the desire of people who really care about themselves, for example. There seems to be, and this is probably, this just guessing. So this is me just guessing. There's probably people who really care about themselves and really want the best for themselves in their reality, in their lifetime. You know, there's probably people who really want to have a very full life. You want to live a full life and, you know, really live the most out of their life. For example, let's ask a rhetorical question. Do you think I'm gonna know? Do you think I'm gonna find out that? Do you think I'm gonna be aware if their consciousness is more in tune with the Illuminati than their consciousness is in tune with, for example, the enlightened beings of Agartha? Do you think I'm going to be aware of that person? Do you think I'm going to know who they are, where they are, what they're thinking? Do you think that's something that I would be aware of? Do you think that someone who, this is also rhetorical and hypothetical, but someone, let's say for like 10 years, let's say someone for 10 years was teaching about just the city of light of Shambhala. I'm not sure if Shambhala is the city of light or not. I know it's whatever, dude. I'm not going to describe it right now, but let's just say that I was teaching about Shambhala for 10 years. And let's say there are people on the planet who also are not informed about Shambhala at all. Do you think that I'm going to be more focused on those who I've taught about the existence of Shambhala? Or do you think my focus is going to be more on those who I haven't taught about the truth of Shambhala? Do you think that my awareness is going to be of more of the awareness of those who are aware of Shambhala, or going to be more, or my awareness is going to be more of the awareness of those who are not aware of Shambhala? Think about that. It's obviously hypothetical, and obviously I don't want you to think about that. But, life is good and freeing, and life is supposed to be liberating. Life is supposed to be liberating. And the thing is, what I can do, which doesn't make sense, and it's neither here or there, and it's also lower vibration. I mean, it's not very low vibration, because it's still a reality. But, it's pretending that the inner earth and the hollow earth and the surface earth is not unified, which isn't true, because that would mean that I don't exist, which isn't true, because I do exist, because I'm present. And unless I don't exist, and I just haven't been informed yet that I don't exist, unless I don't exist, then I'm pretty sure that is the reality, and I'm pretty certain that this is a unified planet, completely. So, perhaps I don't exist. That could be the case, that actually could be the case. And I'd be fine with that. But I'm digressing. There's just so many solutions that exist, from just the uniqueness of life. There's so many solutions that exist in the advanced healing technologies that are already present on Earth, and it just seems that they're if, for example, here's another thing that's very interesting to me. Here's another thing that's incredibly quite interesting to me, and then I'm gonna end this broadcast, because I've been wanting to end this broadcast for a long time. Here's the thing that's very interesting to me. You know what? I don't even want to finish that sentence. Gosh, deep breaths. Okay, here's a very, very interesting question. Who needs actual healing? Who needs actual care? Who are the beings that, for example, have broken bones, or who have some sort of... Who are the beings that need healing, That's what I want to know. And the thing is, what am I going to say? And that's the thing, What am I going to do? That's the other thing. See, those already have answers. And they have old-fashioned answers. The thing is that the solutions that are new to probably... And let's just pretend that this is true. The solutions that are going to be new to the people's ears are the solutions that I've been aware of for a very long time. Pretty much for an eternity, is kind of how it feels. So imagine, how do you think I would feel if someone asked for healing, and the healing sort of device, technology, was only being utilized by, let's say there's 7 million people that need healing. And there is, for example, a building that can heal those 7 million people completely in a matter of a day. Well, let's be more realistic. Let's say there's a building that can heal all 7 million of those people in 12 hours. That's an actual reality that's existent and present. I didn't actually finish what I was trying to say. I don't even know how to say this, dude. There's a trillionaire with the commodity to heal himself, pretty much. Trillions of dollars, has the technology. Like, this trillionaire was just walking home, and then he, broke his leg. Obviously I'm not advocating for this, but this trillionaire broke his leg, and then he stumbled and then broke his back, as broke his leg on a freaking sewer hole, and then stumbled and tripped, and then broke 5 ribs, and then cracked the spine. The trillionaire will then travel to the hospital and then be healed in 2 minutes. Now, that sort of reality does not exist and let's pretend this is true. That sort of reality does not exist in the majority of humanity. The majority of humanity is not aware that healing of all those injuries can happen in 2 minutes, for example. And more interesting, perhaps, if you told them, they might not even believe it. But what's even more interesting and more phenomenal is that there's a guy. Let's pretend there's a guy. There's this revolutionary. There's this rebel. Let's pretend there's this rebel who's aware of this trillionaire, this Robin Hood-like figure. Let's pretend that there's this Robin Hood-like figure that's aware of this stuff that's going on, and he refuses to speak to both parties. Let's just pretend like that's a reality, There's a being, or there's this rebel, or what's the word? Radical. There's this radical ideology that this rebel says that there's nothing that could be said to convince either of the healing that's ready for them, sort of thing. Like, let's pretend that's reality. That would mean that whatever sort of response that rebel has, or that radical has, would be an immense amount of emotion that exists inside the rebel. Just hypothetically speaking, it would seem that there would be, without a doubt, some energy level. There would be some sort of energy transfer, or amount of energy, like, emanating from that person. There would be energy emanating. There would be emotion emanating from that radical rebel, for example. Let's have another example. So there's a giant. Actually, that's not a good example, because I don't like examples that have to do with cutting down trees. Fine, I'll say it. There's a lumberjack with a giant axe, and he starts chopping down a tree. The tree's not gonna come down instantaneously. It's gonna take a little while, and a lot of effort, and a lot of elbow grease to cut down the tree. Now, why? For example, here's the response that a radical would have, or a rebel would have. Why would you cut down the tree? Why would you chop down the tree? And the thing is, there isn't an answer. There really isn't an answer. The thing is, wow. Okay, fine, I'll give an answer. The thing is, trees are sentient beings, living beings, and they're actually alive. And trees, for example, you can communicate with Gaia, and you can communicate with trees, because they're living things. And that's, for example, one way to communicate with the inner earth, is through the trees. Let's pretend that's a thing, let's pretend that's a thing. There's a whole reality that's based off of how trees are seen and perceived in a certain way. And regardless, there seems to be emotion emanating from the radical, or from the rebel, with that sort of mindset. Okay, I'm gonna get off topic because I don't want to talk about that anymore. Dreams eating. This may happen for eternity. I'm so exhausted. Tonight's dream seeding. So tonight's dream seeding. Oh, by the way, my ashram was a success. So it's wonderful. The ashram has been created, and we'll be able to go into the ashram for the first time, or for the second time ever tonight. So that's going to be happening in the dream state, or not just in the dream state, but also hopefully into reality the next day. But while we're all dreaming, we'll be in the ashram, and then we'll connect and have a lot of fun. And we'll be involved in the sort of evolved community and evolved connection, and that'll be nice. It'll be really nice. I mean, nice as in it'll be wonderful, a very positive experience. But I'm so tired right now that I'm gonna go to bed. So I know it's kind of unfortunate that I'm going to bed so early. I know I have lots of listeners, which is an understatement, and I have, a great following, which is an understatement. And I kind of want to keep talking because I know how important this is. But, the thing is, you have to realize, I am so full of emotion. And I say I'm full of emotion because there's entropy, which probably isn't true. Or I say I'm full of friction, I say I'm full of emotion because there's friction, which isn't true. I don't really think there's friction, or that much friction. But the thing is, let's pretend. Let's pretend that there's something that got in my way. Let's pretend that there's something that got in my way. Because it's not true. There's nothing that's in my way of unifying the planet, for example. But let's say there's something in my way of unifying the planet. Let's make up something. Let's make up what I would think might be the reality. Because what I'm going to say probably isn't true. But there's, for some reason, the cabal and just different factions of just bad people are still trying to hide the Stargate in the Middle East. They're still trying to hide the evidence of that Stargate. Let's pretend that that's still the reality. See, at that point, I don't know what to say anymore. I almost don't want to say anything. Imagine if I was an ambassador, and there was, some dark faction that was blocking that was preventing the awareness of the Stargate, the news of the Stargate from spreading to the rest of the world. Let's pretend that was a thing, I think there has to be an understanding of the consciousness that there wouldn't even be the questioning of why. That's not even a step in the process. Think about it. Assume there's 15 steps into informing the world that there's a Stargate. Let's pretend there's 15 steps to say that you have to take 15 steps in order for the world to be informed that there's a Stargate in the Middle East. The thing is, I don't, because there's 15 steps, or not because there's 15 steps, but there's 15 steps, because there's 15 steps, I don't even want to make the first step. Does that make sense? The act of refusing to make the first step is a literal answer. It's a literal answer sort of thing. So I'm tired, dude. I'm gonna go to bed really soon. But love is the most powerful force in the universe. There's been 15 new rays, so that's good. what is it, 15? No. Yeah, 30. There's a total of 30 rays of creation, so that's good. It's wonderful. And even though it really should be in 12s, 24, it should be like 36. So, anyway. I digressed. For tonight's, there really isn't like a main topic, but it turned out to be a success. I didn't think I was that powerful, but I'm that powerful to be able to like wake up in my dreams, sort of, and lucid dream, or actually like delegate what I want to dream about, and then dream it, and then, say it's true the next day. So that's really fun. So I'm gonna do that again. So when we're in our dreams tonight, pretty much the joy will be, because what I was talking about in that dream was obviously what was on my mind, which is the ships, the spaceships, and the starships and stuff like that. So, starships aren't really on my mind. I don't really intend for that to be on my mind. The foundation is just increasing and learning superpowers, training superpowers, just engaging in higher dimensional abilities. There'll be new discoveries of new levels of relationships, just different fun of the possible relationships that can happen. The new levels of consciousness and just the kind of bliss that can be instilled in powerful beings, and the truth of that we're powerful beings. So it's also just going to be also a lot of entrainment of like, you are powerful, you are powerful, you are power, be powerful sort of thing. Express yourself as a strong, intelligent, intellectual being of greatness. Anyway, I'm very tired, so I'm going to go to bed. With lots of love, I love you all. This is your host, Christopher Curtis Bowen, on this evening edition of the Christopher Bowen Show. Until next time, peace, joy, love, happiness, productivity, liberty, and all of that merriment. Until next time.